Hello Internet, I am the Hero of Julius once again with another One Piece chapter summary. This week's chapter is chapter 1077, I Should Have Noticed Sooner. And let me tell you, there are a lot of things to notice in this chapter. But we'll start off with the chapter art like we always do. It is, you got Caesar and you got Judge, the two of them, they were in their middle of their little spat and they both noticed sooner. The real culprit of their pain and misery and sorrow is Vegapunk, so gonna guess this is not the band back together I thought it was. I'm gonna say it's everybody but Vegapunk getting the band back together. So they'll probably either head straight for Egghead Island because they both probably know where it is. They'll probably stop. Maybe they'll run into Queen and the remnant of Kaido's crew if Kaido is actually not with us anymore. I doubt it, but if Queen is a free agent again, Queen might join them and maybe King as well, and they'll be heading to Egghead Island as well, which could be quite dangerous for the Straw Hat crew as they are trying to sail away from that. But that's pretty much all we have on the cover story. So without further ado, let's get into the actual chapter itself. The chapter begins with Sentomaru explaining to the denizens of Egghead Island that everyone needs to leave now, and they're asking him, why, what's going on, why'd you let all the Seraphim out, and why are you commanding all the pacifistas to take out the CP agents, and Sentomaru begins to explain to them the story of Ohara, which Oda is kind enough to also give a dedicated panel to, telling us that Ohara was the island that did some research on the poneglyphs, which is forbidden knowledge because the world government doesn't want them getting closer to the secret of what actually happened during the Void Century, and then blew up that island. Egghead Island might be facing something similar, and the reason Sentomaru believes that the government is not afraid to wipe this out is because they weren't afraid to wipe out Ohara, despite how much technological or scientific or historical knowledge could be obtained. It is too close to the Void Century. It is too close to the forbidden section of the history that they don't want you to know. So with this, I actually noticed that this kind of means the people who live on Egghead Island are real. Originally, we thought because Atlas had those gloves and she, high-fived someone on the island, that maybe these were all just holograms that, through the ability to physically touch holograms, the holograms are able to assist with science. Apparently, these are real people, which means these are real lives that are at stake. Speaking of lives at stake, we still have to deal with these renegade Seraphims, and that is pretty much all the Straw Hats are dealing with in this chapter. We got Luffy and Zoro with Kaku and Lucci currently landing heavy blows on both Kuma and Mihawk's Seraphims, but the two of them just kind of get back up and brush themselves off and go right back to fighting, and Luffy even comments on them of like, how are you guys so durable? Will you think you're Kaido or something? Like, Luffy has fought a man who has gotten up after every single hit he's given him. And Luffy himself gets up after every single hit, but this seems unfair. Until Zoro realizes these guys remind him a lot of King. And Shaka goes, who's King? A Lunarian on Kaido's crew? And yeah, that's exactly what Zoro tells him. He goes, I'm not exactly sure what he's called, but yeah, King's a lot like these guys. And Shaka goes, well, if it is the same guy, then yes, those are made with the very blood that existed through the Lunarian that we did research on. And Zoro goes, okay, then in that case, listen up, guys, because I actually have a battle strategy. First thing we got to keep in mind is the fact that they are almost invincible while the fire is lit on their back. But when the fire goes out, they become super fast, but vulnerable, so that's when we gotta hit them. And I'm sorry guys, I should have noticed this sooner. Zoro even admits that he wasted a lot of their energy on not realizing this. And weirdly enough, the one person that actually says it's okay is Rob Lucci, which, it's nice to see them all working together. Don't get me wrong, Rob Lucci's still one of the biggest villains in One Piece, but he apparently does have a civil side, because he says, no, it's fine. We didn't know. You didn't realize. Lunarians are extremely rare, so it's not your fault to not realize you're fighting the same species. And then Zoro goes, Another set of distinguishing features is King has white hair, dark skin, black wings, fire, feathers, and they're all like, on second thought, never mind, Zoro, you're an idiot, you should have noticed this sooner. And all three of them, Luffy, Kaku, and Lucci, are all like, which is really funny. You get to see a comedic side of Lucci as well. So he's starting to warm up as more of a well-rounded character. I don't think this is going to turn Lucci into a good guy, but I don't know, maybe a potential neutral ally once the final battle begins. That's all we see on this fight, as Shaka begins to walk away because he thinks he figured out where Vegapunk is. As he tries to leave, Zoro blocks an attack from Mihawk, and we move on to the next fight. Nami versus Seraphim Jinbei. Nami points out to Zeus that Seraphim Jinbei has already taken out Edison and Brook. We see Brook on the ground, not cracked or destroyed or anything, but Brook is injured. And Nami is pushing through the fact that this is not a child. That's what she's telling herself. This is not a child. This is a robot. It looks like Jinbei, but it's not Jinbei. And she actually hits him with Zeus, with a thunderbolt of the strength of Big Mom, right through the Seraphim. And as it falls back over, it dives into the ground, using the swim fruit. It pops up behind Nami, and it's ready to finish her off, when suddenly Sanji comes bursting on the scene, saying law number 1 of the Sanjitsushin. If anybody makes Nami upset, they will be sentenced to death. And if anybody makes Nami scream, they will be sentenced to a kick to the face, as Sanji slams into the Jinbei Seraphim, knocking it into the ground, and he goes, I don't care if you look like our guy, I'm taking you out. And the thing to notice here, the thing you should notice sooner, Sanji's swirly eyebrow is in the reverse direction for this one panel. Sanji is going into his Germa double 6 mode, which we don't really have like an exact information on like if Sanji changes as a human being, but we know his emotions go down. We know he's way more durable. We know he took out Queen, who I'm not going to say is equal to a Seraphim, but Queen was a big threat, and Sanji defeated him very quickly in this mode. So I'm interested to see what will happen when Sanji finishes the fight with the Seraphim Jinbei, and if maybe Nami has to knock some sense into him to get him back to normal. The final Seraphim we're bumping in on, because it's the last Seraphim we actually know about, is the Hancock Seraphim, who is doing pretty well. I mean, we know she took out my beautiful and wonderful York already, but it was a cheap shot. I'm pretty sure York could have figured it out sooner if more obvious things had happened, or if she had had more time to prepare. Regardless, the cheating and horrible S-Snake has managed to take out York and is currently going after Usopp, Frankie, and Lilith. But when Lilith fires the bubble gun, the Hancock Seraphim just kind of pushes it away, not realizing that the bubbles are apparently infused with the same power of the sea, which means little Hancock falls to the ground for a second. She does manage to get back up quickly and kick Frankie in the face because the bubble only grazed her, it didn't actually paralyze her. But the Seraphims are Devil Fruit users, which means they have the same weakness as any other Devil Fruit user. If they can manage to get them onto the ground via Sea Prism handcuffs or anything like that, the fight can be over. And the fight almost was over because Frankie managed to grab the bubble and place it on top of the Hancock Seraphim. Unfortunately, she looked up at him with this cute little look on her face and she said, why are you hurting me? And Frankie, of course, flustered by the cute little girl asking, why are you hurting me, sir? He let go of the bubble, which gave her enough time to strike him with the perfume fumer, which allows her to turn part of Frankie to stone. To make matters worse, little Hancock cartwheeled her way past the bubbles being shot by Lilith, and with a single wink got both Lilith and Usopp to go, "Aw, she's so cute," and turned to stone. So now, not only do we have to defeat the Seraphim, we cannot destroy them. Because what we learned from Hancock, another user of the Love Fruit can't change what happened to these people. Granted, we don't really have a way to prove what Hancock said. She may have been bluffing just to get Blackbeard to surrender. But maybe because the blood sample of Hancock is what made Little Seraphim Hancock, maybe it's possible that they're technically the same devil fruit, which means Hancock could unstone all the people she's hit. But I think the more likely scenario is defeating and reprogramming, or potentially just befriending the Seraphim and getting her to change them back. But as it stands right now, we've lost Lilith, we've lost York, we've lost Usopp, and we're probably going to lose Frankie. And to make matters worse, we're about to lose more. The very final scene of this chapter is Shaka making his way downstairs and finding Vegapunk in the basement, their old Devil Fruit research lab. With Vegapunk, we also see the Cypher Pull agents who have been captured, and Shaka goes, "Oh, so this is where you are. That's okay. That's good. Well, what's the problem here?" And Vegapunk goes, "I should have noticed things sooner, and I'm sorry everything went like this. Also, who is that with you?" And Shaka turns around just in time to get shot. We don't know by who, but all we heard was the sound effect, katok. So, some kind of shoe with a hard heel, or maybe a pair of wooden shoes, whatever the reason, somebody's walking around, and it could be one of the other Seraphims. We still don't see Doflamingo, Crocodile, or Gecko Moria. We don't see their Seraphims. It could be a completely new enemy. We didn't see Stussy this chapter, but Oda's really milking the whodunit on this one. Usually by now we get a reveal, but so far we're still, after multiple chapters of this could potentially be the chapter we see it, we're not seeing it. So personally, I'm hoping we find out within the next chapter or two, but weirdly enough, I'm more concerned with the fact that we didn't get an immediate cut back to Elbaf. I know I got done with the huge hype from Elbaf last chapter, but, Blackbeard fought against Law, and then the very next chapter we saw that fight continue. What are you holding out on us, Oda? Is Kid actually holding up a fight, or was it such a fast brawl that you didn't even feel like showing it to us? Regardless, I'm hoping to get some new answers next chapter, because we got 0 new answers in this one. Thank you for watching as always, though, and I will see you in the next video. This is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.